Ugomma. Ugomma was a very beautiful lady. She was so beautiful that her beauty attracted birds. Her skin was as smooth as silk and her black was fine ebony. She was the only daughter of a rich man and had 3 elder brothers who loved and cherished her. She had lots of suitors who came each time bearing gifts. But Ugomma always had something to say. It was either they were too poor, too fat, too skinny, or even ugly. She could not even pick from any of them. News about her spread like wildfire. The men were all talking about her, each explaining and sharing his experience. The ladies also talked about her on their way to the marketplaces and farmlands. One fateful day, a spirit heard about this proud girl. He was bent on teaching her a lesson. He transformed into a handsome prince and decided to make his way to the village. That fateful afternoon, he arrived at the village. All eyes were on him. He seemed very rich and also handsome. To Ugomma, it was love at first sight. He came bearing the highest gifts and he was very handsome. He was all she ever wanted. The wedding took place almost the next day. It was the biggest wedding celebration in the land. That food even remained days after the main wedding. Soon it was time to leave. Ugomma and the prince set out on a horse with their servants bearing the gifts. They left the village and waved goodbye to their friends and loved ones. The journey was becoming boring for Ugomma. She had never traveled this far. Ugomma's parents, on the other hand, were worried at home. They seemed to have forgotten to ask the prince where he was from. The father summoned his kinsmen to know if anybody was keen enough to ask the prince where he was from. But unfortunately, nobody did. It was as if they were all under a spell. Ugomma was now tired because days have turned into weeks. She keeps asking the prince, when are we going to arrive? But each time he replied, soon. When they got to a stop, he transformed into a monster and brought out a big stick and started to beat Ugomma. He beat her so hard that she screamed, but nobody could hear her as they were deep inside the forest. He disfigured her and even blinded her in one eye. Oh, he left her as good as dead. Days after, a hunter found her lying helplessly. He decided to help her, treat her wounds, and carried her on his horse. He helped her and took her to the village. Everybody was so glad that she was back. And she learned her lesson because no man agreed to marry her, and she spent her lonely days alone in a hut.